Hello and welcome to Filmscape Chicago 2025. It's really exciting. I am super excited to be here. This is actually my first Filmscape, so this is just super thrilling. And I've been asked to speak about making and maintaining meaningful business connections alongside some amazing ladies here. I know that's a mouthful, but you can just say it's the art of networking to simplify it. So I wanted to introduce my panelists. Directly to my left here is Erica Duffy, a dynamic entrepreneur and passionate advocate in the film industry. As the founder of Camera Ambassador, she leads one of only 3 women-owned equipment rental houses nationwide. And next is Ellen Colleague, who has an expansive background in film and TV production, the music industry, software development, business development, community organizing, and economic development. But now she has settled as the new chief of staff at the Chicago Reader. And last, we have Caitlin Henslin, a Chicago-based producer that works across all formats of production, from documentaries and music videos to features and commercials, always centering collaboration and human connection as the heart of her work. And I'm your host, Sarah Giroux. I am a local cinematographer that primarily specializes in commercials and live event coverage. I'm also the co-founder of Martini Shot, which is a networking mixer for working professionals in the film and broadcast industry. And I also wanted to recognize the amazing staff here, all volunteer-based. So thank you, Filmscape, for being here, and thank you, Mainstage Chicago, for doing this live stream. We're really appreciative. So to get started, I just wanted to also do a quick call out because Erica and Ellen are now board members of Filmscape. How did you find the time, ladies? Ellen?
Oh, you don't. You just don't sleep. You don't find the time. You can't make more of it. This is a really amazing group of people, and I think So this is literally the only organization in Chicago where a bunch of creative industry professionals came together to support their industry. It is 100% volunteer-led. There is no other creative industry where just everybody loves each other so much that they give of themselves for their community, and it is a year-round endeavor. So how could you not want to join that and support that? So you just make the time.
And same with you, Eric. I mean, how many things do you have going on these days? It's kind of amazing.
I think for me it was like kind of no-brainer because a lot of the work I already do is so aligned with Filmscape. I've been part of Filmscape since its inception, involved in many different ways, and so it was like, yeah, absolutely. What took you so long?
That's awesome. Well, you guys are great additions to the team. So yeah, let's go to where it all started. How did we get started? And we've all been working professionals for a sum of years. Networking is key to making it in our industry. It's about who you know, but it's also about how you present yourself. It's about evolving. It's about learning. It's about growing. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about how you all got started. We can start with you, Caitlin.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad that you said it's about who you know, because I think that is a very often discouraging mindset in terms of this industry, and something that I started doing first out the gate when I started in this industry, and still do on every set that I'm on, is I talk to each of my peers, everyone on the set, and I try to figure out where do they want to go. Because this is such a fluid industry and there's no one linear career path. And so if you can sit someone down and say, you're on set as a PA, but what do you want to do in 3 years? What do you want to do in 5 years? And getting to know your community in that way then opens opportunities. So I really encourage people to, instead of looking at, it's about who I know, it's more about I get to make this community, and who do I want in my community? Because the more people you get to know, the more people you're communicating with, those are people who are working professionals, and they will eventually have a shoot that they need you on, or they might have a shoot that they want you to be a part of. So I think it's really important to build community, and that's a great way to get started.
Absolutely. And what about you, Ellen? Because I just rattled off like 6 different industries. What did you do to find each one and make it your own?
I got started in the film industry because I was so cool in high school that I worked for the local cable access station. So like really popular, really just so cool. And I grew up in Southern California where it just seemed kind of normal to go into creative industries. I had a family member who was in the music business, and so it just seemed like a normal career path. So, did the film school thing, started working for professors, and really I just got started because people realized that I would just work harder than I probably should have and kill myself. And they were like, oh, well, I'll hire her because I can underpay her and she'll overwork herself. So that was a great way to start, is to show value. Don't undervalue yourself, though. Please learn from my mistakes. Get paid. And then that kind of just led to a bunch of different things. I actually was super anti-networking because, especially in the LA scene, it really felt like you were using people. And it didn't feel like an authentic human connection. And my career path kind of led me to Chicago over the way. The music industry was because I had a bunch of friends who were musicians, and I was like, oh, you're all terrible at money. Let me help you. So I worked in the music industry, basically just helping them get gigs and get contracts and managing them. And then Spotify was coming, and the music industry seemed to freak out about that, and that seemed like a good opportunity to make money. So I got into digital because I was like, oh, they're scared. I can sell them something basic. So I worked with a guy who owned a record label, and we created a proof of concept app and sold it. And then the guy that we worked with on the tech with that was like, you're an extrovert. I'm in software. We don't do that talking thing good like. Can you be our talk lady? And I was like, I don't know anything about your industry, but yes, I talk good. So I think that everywhere you go, it's just kind of like finding how you fit. And then also being able to just plug other people in. So in LA, what I really didn't like about networking was it was very much like, should I know you? What can you do for me? It's icky. It's an icky vibe. What I love about the Chicago community is it's really more about people being like, oh man, you gotta meet Erica. Erica's amazing. You're gonna love working with her. And it's a much more authentic connection. And people really are just kind of trying to be the plug for each other and trying to help each other out. It's just a much healthier, more authentic way to be and to look at networking, is just how can I be someone that other people want to recommend, and I want to recommend people who are good.
Yeah, well said. That's amazing. And the Midwest mentality is absolutely infectious. And same with you, Erica. You moved here, correct, to start your business?
Yeah, so I worked in camera e-commerce sales before this, and I had just moved to Chicago. I had literally never stepped in a rental house in my life, and I just started meeting friends, and my friends were filmmakers. And how I got into it is they were asking me if I still had this camera that was for sale, if they could rent it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. And so I think like networking can sometimes look untraditional too. It's not necessarily just going to an event or, getting business cards. It's just finding people that you vibe with and that you have good energy with, and then being receptive when they say like, oh, could this work? Like just trying to find solutions. And I've never felt like I had all the answers or I knew exactly what I was doing, but I was always just receptive to the people around me and the things that they needed and the way that I could collaborate with them and help them make their work easier. And so, yeah, I think, I got into it because of the people that I just met and them asking me if I can help them. And I think that's the best way to network, is just to find people that you genuinely enjoy, you want to spend time with, and you like them.
That's a great point. And I want to piggyback off that with you for a moment. Because when I got started 15 years ago, post-film school, I went to a lot of networking events. I was passing out business cards like candy, and I was constantly like being the annoying person to follow up and follow up again and follow up again until I was so relevant that they thought that they'd already worked with me. And it was effective for me at the time. But I think that there's been an interesting change in how people network now, and I recognize on the Camera Ambassador website, I really love that you guys have a calendar of events for pretty much anything and everything that's like on the pulse of like the Chicago film and broadcast industry. So I'm curious if you've seen any trends post-COVID of how people are networking differently.
Oh, it's been a roller coaster for sure. And I had previously worked at the Midwest Film Festival, which a huge part of my job was just trying to activate community wanting to come out. And so I think about my time there, and I think people kind of realize, and I used to be very similar to you. I would go to like 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 like events a week. And, I liked them and I enjoyed them, but it was exhausting as well. It's really tiring constantly putting yourself out there. Even if you're an extrovert, which I know a lot of people in the creative industry are, it's still tiring. It costs money and you don't, you're sacrificing other things in your personal life or with your family. So I think it's what's changed and evolved since COVID is that there is a shift in quality over quantity. So really trying to be more selective and, not going to just every single event, but trying to have a variety of things that are maybe more pointed towards the things and the interests that you're specifically looking for. And for like me, it's like, I try to look for events that are maybe a new avenue, like people that I don't know, where if it's maybe an event that I've been to. And of course I want to support people that, I have, gone to their organizations and their things before as well. But I try to look for like new and unique things as well, because I'm not going to go to as many things as I maybe used to.
Sure. And I'm curious if you guys think if business cards are still relevant, or if just the changing of the tides with social media being so in your face all the time. I mean, how many people are holding phones right now? I can see a couple. It's just, it's a part of who we are. It's a third arm at this point. I'd like to pin this to you, Caitlin. Being a younger but a very successful filmmaker, how do you see that trend of meeting new people? How are you giving your information out?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I still carry business cards and I still use them, but often is someone asking me for a card is an older generation than I am. And I think that it's pretty interesting how common Instagram is used, especially in the creative industry. It's becoming almost like a portfolio for people. And I found that it was useful for me to create a business page separate from my personal one, especially because so many younger people on sets ask for my Instagram instead of my email or instead of my phone number in order to get in contact with me again. So I think if that is something that you find useful, it can be helpful to have a page that represents your work separate from your personal life. I also think just something kind of on the working with generations and what that looks like as someone who has been lucky enough to produce at a younger age. I think it's really important, and this goes for all filmmaking and all artistry, but it's really important to lead with curiosity and a little bit what you were talking about, Erica, but really discovery and collaboration. I think I'm able to work so well with lots of different generations because I never assume that my answer is the best. And no matter what age anyone is, we all come in with different experiences. We all come in with different knowledge and different ideas. And really the importance is to collaborate and discuss what is the best thing for the integrity of this film specifically. And if you go in with that mindset, working with any age, any background, any mindset is usually easy.
Oh, well said. I'd like to bounce that to Ellen, actually, because when we spoke, you organically brought up about how important it is to know how to work with every generation, and with technique and technology constantly evolving in our very short film industry. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Just meet people where they are. That's pretty much it. Not everything's going to work for every person, so you got to be a little flexible, but you also have to be honest about your own limitations. My work life is insane right now, so I tell people, I'm like, oh, please don't DM me on LinkedIn. I forget I have that. Please don't do that. Here's my phone number. Can you just text me and then be really generous with my response time? Because I would really appreciate that. So I think that just being really honest about your availability. So I'll hand people business cards, and it's always really weird and awkward because I know I have a stack of them that I'm like, oh, there's probably some people I should talk to in that stack. Oh, that's not helping me at all to just have them in a stack. So I'll tell people please use it. Just if you need anything, just text me. My phone number's on there. It's easy. So you really just want to make life easy for people and let them know kind of what your availability is, but then everyone's going to be a different thing. Christine, who's here, is amazing, and we used to have the greatest vibe where we could do Friday night, catch-ups. And it was just such a great way to end our week, but also a great way to just keep in touch. So creating kind of cadences with people, and that's, a phone call. Other people, I text all the time. So there are some people I know I'm going to see at this event. So you'll go to events just to run into the people that you really miss. So you really just kind of got to think about who do I want to see and what's the best way that I can keep in touch with them, and be flexible with yourself as well. I think we all put a little bit too much pressure on ourselves, and it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have limitations.
I think that's a great segue to my next talking point, which is banishing burnout and building a balance. It's a lot of B's, and I love them all. My New Year's resolution to myself this year was to say the word no more. We're halfway through the year, and I'm failing miserably. I've worked, I don't know how many doubles this week. I'm flying out next week for a commercial, and I'm filming a movie in 2 weeks. It's insane. And I'm here speaking with you, which is incredible. So do you guys have any advice for me?
Write it on your hand. Old school.
Plan a vacation.
Yeah. I do live by my calendar, to be honest with you. Like, my phone is buzzing at all times. I haven't succumbed to the Apple Watch because I feel like I would just be a buzzing anomaly all the time. I couldn't do it. But yeah, what do you guys do to, make sure you're finding that balance that you need in life to give yourself the time you need, but also say yes to the right projects? Caitlin?
Yeah, I would say that get very real with yourself on what your goals are, and then say no to projects that don't support those goals. It's very hard to do. It's very scary, especially in a world and an industry where we're told, like, you're very lucky to be here. You're lucky to have this job. But I think an important reminder is that even when we are lucky to be in a group of people, they are also lucky to have you there. And you have skills to give. And so if you know where you want to be, say no to the jobs that don't support that, and you will see a big shift. It completely changed my trajectory when I started saying no to jobs that didn't support my goals.
Yeah, Erica?
One of the sayings that I always say to myself, like, it's a little mantra of, you can do anything, but not everything. And like, you can do all those jobs, but you can't do all of them. Like, you have the skill set and you have the ability and you have the connections, and all those things are going to come. But if you say yes to one thing that's maybe filling your schedule and it's not quite exactly aligned with what Caitlin's saying of what your goals are, you won't have time to do everything, and you'll have to say no to something else that might be more aligned. And then the only thing I was going to add that is something that's really true to myself is I think that this industry is so unique. It's so different than I think just a typical 9-to-5 situation where balance in that world looks very different. And so for me, balance has never been, I'm going to be home by 6 o'clock every night, because that's just not realistic. And so for me, what makes me feel balanced, and this is different for every different person, is I'll take chunks of time off, because it'll take me 1 to 2 weeks even just to start letting work go and actually start relaxing on a trip or a vacation or even a staycation. So I'll go, weeks or months or however long that period of season is for me of working a lot, and I'm working way more than 40 hours, and then I'll completely shut off for an entire month. And sometimes, people that I know that aren't in the industry are like, oh, wow, you got a whole month? I'm like, well, yeah, you didn't know what I did the other 9 months just before this. So I think it's just trying to be really realistic with yourself and not trying to let society's standards of what maybe they think balance is, and creating that for yourself and being really honest with yourself of what you need in that situation.
I think it's easy to get caught up, especially if you love what you do. And that's the goal. We all want to do something we love for a career, right? It's hard to say no to that. So I think having that separation is so important. By the way, I do take time for myself. It's hard, but I do take it. And not to call you out again, Erica, but with permission, you are pregnant, which is incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited.
How are you preparing? You're running a business. You're a new board member. You have multiple other jobs going. How's that going for you?
It's going great so far. We'll see in 2 months when this little girl decides to make her debut. It definitely has put another, and everyone says to me oh, just wait, perspective's going to change. And I can't even imagine what that looks like, because Camera Ambassador truly is my first child. I love it so much. I've built it from the ground up, and it does feel like a little baby to me. And so it's an interesting time, especially right now for Camera Ambassador, because we're changing and growing a lot right now as well. And I kind of meditate of is she giving me this motivation? And kind of feels like there's a little bit of a time container, and I'm definitely going to, I'm working really hard right now, and I just mentioned before, I'm going to be unavailable for 3, 6, 12, I don't know, a lot of months. And just like really owning that and like taking this time right now to do what I can to set up things for the future. So that way when I'm taking that balance of what it looks like for me.
Which starts with getting a great group of people around you that you trust and know. So that's wonderful. And I think very inspiring. You can be a parent and you can have your dream job too. It's very cool. I wanted to jump back to something you said earlier, Ellen, which is about just the LA mentality of I use you, you use me. But what, defines a good partnership or relationship to actually recommend somebody for a job, and then them in turn wanting to recommend you? Like, what does a healthy working relationship look like with that?
I will not recommend anybody who I think is a flake, because you're putting your name and your reputation is attached to that person. So if you know them to be a flake at all, and I'll even tell people, like, you do such amazing work, and I would love to be able to recommend you to other people, but you do not respond. Like, I have to hunt you down. So if you could get that part of your life a little more locked down, I'll recommend the bejesus out of you. I'll throw you so much business. You're so talented. But literally just people being able to get in contact with you is a necessity. Doing really good work, having no ego. Your ego is not your amigo, is something that Tony Alva put on a t-shirt, a skateboarder. But it's very, very true. If you walk into a room with the mentality that you're probably one of the best people in there, you're probably one of the worst people in the room. That is just the way that one goes. So I will not recommend anyone who I don't think is a good person, because that's really going to reflect on me. Like, oh, Ellen hangs out with the worst human beings, and she has recommended someone who is making my life harder. Like, I can't recommend you if you are going to make someone else suffer, no matter how talented you are, no matter how many resources you bring to the table. I talked about this a lot with Rosemary Perdonovich, and we really can only recommend good people who will make other people's lives easier. That is just the baseline for human respect.
Well said. Caitlin, as a producer, what do you look for when you're crewing up for a feature film or a production?
Yeah, a lot of what you just said. So when I'm observing a crew or someone I might want to hire or rehire, I really see it in two pillars, especially in this industry. I think one pillar is your craft. And what you were just saying is you can be so talented and so good at that craft and the role that you take in the ecosystem of a film set. But then the other pillar is your profession and your business. Because as a freelancer or someone who's hired per job, you are your own business and you have to represent that business. And I think it's really important to remember that everything that you do is an interview. How you communicate with people, what you do when you're under stress, how you ask for more money if you need more money from the line producer. All of these things equate to your profession. And if you're really good at your craft, but you don't have a good profession, it's really hard to hire someone like that, because often that gets in the way of a successful day.
And similar to you, Erica, who you're running a business, what do you look for when you're hiring staff?
Yeah, just good people that treat people nice, like be kind, like skill and all these things that we're talking about. But like at the end of the day, like we spend so much time with the people we work with, and like, are you just nice to be around? Like treat people with decency. And then I think like it's kind of one step further of like beyond like when you're like looking for someone to hire is also, it's really important as leaders, and anyone's a leader in a space, of creating like a culture where feedback is mandatory. Like we have to be able to have hard conversations with each other, like saying like, hey, I think you're a really awesome person, but I'm noticing this, because that is going to ultimately help that person. And I think it can be peer-to-peer, it can be in leadership roles to people you're working with, but like how do we grow unless we're able to have honest conversations with ourselves and with each other to know like we need mirrors and we need to be that for each other and do it in a kind and decent way, but like having that rapport and culture that you can do that with people that you care about and that you work with.
Yeah, I find that to be so important. Like, we are rarely given feedback as filmmakers, as freelancers. Sometimes you'll work on a set and then you never work with those people again. And oftentimes you might be oblivious to the fact that they don't want to work with you again, but they're already like fixated on the next project. They're not gonna take the time to be like, oh yeah, you were kind of weird, or oh yeah, do you remember how you were an hour late, or any of those things. I've personally made it a goal of mine over the past 10 years to give feedback to my peers. Sometimes it's stung. Of course, I try to do it diplomatically and professionally. One instance, I told a guy that I probably wouldn't work with him again because of his no call, no show. And he was a little offended. Time went on, and about a year and a half later, he got a really cool job, and he reached out and he was like, hey, I really appreciate you telling me that, because I was in a weird place, but I also didn't care as much. So thank you so much for like telling me that. And it made me feel good, but at the same time, I'm glad it made him do better and try harder, because feedback is so important. So I really encourage you all to communicate effectively with your peers, even if they're kind of a stranger or if they're a really good friend. Everyone has room to grow in their heart, in their mind. It's just so important.
Also, ask for feedback. It is so okay to ask someone how you did on a shoot and what you could do better. I actually really respect that about Sarah. The first time we worked together, she asked me, and I was like, "That's a great question. Not a lot of people think to ask."
Thanks. Yeah, it's so important. You got to check in with yourself, because how else would you know like where to grow and where to learn? So that's amazing. It's also just really important to know how everyone works on set. Caitlin, like you are just a producer, but you are more than a producer. Like, did you ever find the time to learn other roles, or how did you do that as you were learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a pretty unique experience in the sense that I went to DePaul here in Chicago, and one of my friends asked me to produce a short film, and I was like, sure, I'll try it out. I'm organized, whatever. I can make spreadsheets, which I do a lot of now. And it kind of got around that I was producing short films, and then I just kept producing short films. And then when I got bigger, I was coordinating in UPM until now I'm producing my own. But something that I did regardless of kind of being lucky enough to skip some of those other roles was anytime I was on a set and I wasn't in the role I eventually wanted to be, I watched the person who was in that role. And I think that's a really important thing to do throughout your entire career. Pay attention to them. How do they operate? How do they communicate? Who are they talking to most? What is their process? How do they show up? And that's not to say you'll agree with every person who does that, but watching someone who does something how you don't want to do it is also super informative to how you want to be in your career. And I think that in this industry specifically, each position has a lot of subjectivity, and each department head shows up in a different way. And the more that you can pay attention to how you want to be and how you want to operate in this world, the more memorable you'll be, because you'll be a consistent type of producer or a consistent type of gaffer. And so I think it's really important to just observe and think, kind of reflect often about how you want to show up.
And don't think you already know everything. Yeah, there's always room for growing and learning at any age. And Ellen, you had mentioned about knowing your worth. Do you have any advice for people that are starting out or maybe in their 5-year mid-mark? How can you tell them to find that and know your worth and learn how to ask for more money too?
So don't take 3 jobs, because if you don't have 3 jobs, you can't survive. And I am the worst example of this because I have 2 full-time jobs. But that is because I really love both organizations. So I think that one of the things you can do is there are a bunch of free resources. Chicago is a mecca of free resources, and you can literally go, and if you don't know about pricing, if you have a product, there are literally free workshops all over the city of Chicago. I learned this when I was doing a lot more business development and economic development, where you can literally go to like the Polsky Center and a bunch of these like resource hubs for small businesses, and they have workshops on how to price goods and services. And they will literally take you through formulas of like, okay, you've been doing it this many years, let's look at the average pay scale. So if you're not sure and you don't feel comfortable just looking at what everyone else is making or talking to other people about how much they're making, there are places that you can go for free that will teach you about that pricing. As far as asking for what you're worth, it's really not like, I need to make this much money or else, because people will go, or else it is. Thank you so much. It's really just saying like, look, especially with a lot of jobs, it's a range. In every budget, there is a range. There is never a set number of like, we can pay exactly $53.28. We cannot go up, we cannot go down. It will only be 53.28. There's always a range. You can always ask people, what's kind of the range that you're looking at for this? And within that range, they'll already have a set of criteria for what they're willing to do at the low range and what they're willing to do at the high range. And you are allowed and encouraged to ask those questions. Like at the high range, what kind of skill set are you looking for? At the low range, what's the baseline here? And then you can then make the argument for yourself within that range because you know your skills. You know where you fit once you have those guidelines. So just ask about the range and why they made it that way and advocate for yourself. That's it.
And also pay it forward, because that's good karma. It's important to be able to, know why you're hireable, but also support those other people that have done you favors in the past as well. I'm going to put Erica on the spot. Why would people refer you? Why would people recommend you?
Ooh. I want to be like, deflect this, like, well, you guys give me some feedback. You guys tell me. That's a really hard question for me to answer because I have a really hard time, like, I think giving myself credit. I'm usually harder on myself than I need to be. And it's a good thing because it pushes me, but it also, it's hard because I don't always give myself the like praise I should. But I think that something that's really valuable about myself is I really give a shit. Like if I'm working on a project or I'm helping you with rental or I'm working at Midwest Film Festival or on the board or whatever it is I will give my 100% to it because I genuinely care about what I do. And I think that for me, like I wouldn't be in this industry if it wasn't. And my guess is that's probably a lot of you feel the same way. And I think that that's a really valuable skill set that I bring.
That's awesome. Hire her. She's awesome. Actually, she has enough jobs. Don't hire her. So I just want to go down the line real quick with just one last bit of advice you might have for our audience, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Does anyone want to start?
I'll go because it's actually the best advice I received. When picking projects and doing things, I used to say yes too much, but also I burnt myself out. I would burn myself to a crisp, and I have a friend who is a DJ and a graffiti artist, and he is a chef owner of a restaurant, and then he's always doing these like really cool pop-ups and stuff. Highly recommend all he does. It's all really cool. It's all really successful. Instagram, Revise, CMW. But I was like, Juan, how do you not burn out? How do you not die doing all of this? Like, are there methamphetamines involved? Like, what is the secret? I don't know how you do this. And also, how do you not just hate people? And he was like, oh, I only do cool shit with good people. That's it. And I was like, oh, that is exceedingly simple to follow in life. And I just started doing that. If I don't like the people, if I'm not excited about what it is, I just don't do it. So when you're looking for who to work with, when you're looking for what your next move should be or what you should be doing, just really go for, cool shit with good people. It's pretty basic.
And give a shit.
Erica?
I think what my best advice would be, no matter where you are at with your career, is don't underestimate any relationship that you build. Whether it's at an event and you talk to someone for 5 minutes or someone you've been friends with for a long time, is you don't really know when that's going to circle back around. There's been people that I talked to for 10 minutes 10 years ago, and they'll call me and be like, remember that thing? And I'm like, oh yeah. And like 10 years later is when they needed something of my resources in my toolbox. And I think it's like easy to be like, oh, like researching like who's the important people. But like everyone's the important people. Like, don't underestimate people and don't underestimate or get discouraged if you're like networking or, trying to build those relationships and it feels like they're not bringing fruit, because sometimes fruit takes a really long time to grow.
Really great advice. I I would also say be reflective as much as you can. What was really helpful for me was understanding the skills that I have at any given time and then surrounding myself with people who fill the gaps of the skills. And then you have this community of people who can help you learn by watching them do what you already don't know how to do. So just keep reflecting with yourself as you keep learning and then surround yourself with people who can fill those gaps.
It's great. And my advice would be to remember that you are just as important. To take care of yourself and don't give too much of yourself away. You know, drink water, wear sunscreen, work out, get sleep. Remember to take care of yourself too, because this industry is very much team driven. And if one person is not at their mental or physical best, then it'll show. So yeah, protect yourself. Thank you guys so much. That was such a great conversation.
Thank you.
I wanted to see if anyone had any questions for the last 10 minutes. And I think someone's going to walk around with a microphone.
Hi. First of all, thanks for all the advice. It was awesome. I know you guys were talking about kind of the difference between Midwestern and kind of LA style of networking. And my question is, do you think there's a certain point or certain time where you almost kind of have to adopt that kind of LA style of networking? Or do you think it's better to kind of use those Midwestern sensibilities to kind of stand out?
Do you like your soul? Do you like money more than your soul? Is really the question it comes down to. At the end of the day, we all have to live with ourselves. And so if it just align what you do with your value system. There are some people who love that LA stuff, and they live there, and that's where you find them. There are some of them here, and all the Midwestern people and the Midwestern vibes people go, oh, they're in the wrong place. There's a tribe for everyone. Just find your tribe. If it works for you, it works for you. That's great.
From my experience, I have been I went and made a few movies in LA and I experienced that and it was a great experience. But since then, I think I have kind of been deterred from that a style of networking and really trying to prove that you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And in my experience, you don't. In Chicago, it is so community based. It is about making friendships. And when you make friendships, those people will become your colleagues. That is just how it works here. You make friends, you find peers, they do a project, they hire you. I mean, here I have so many friends teaching workshops here because I've worked with them. And so I think that if that doesn't vibe with you, you can trust that you will find the right people by doing what works for you.
Hello, question over here. Hi, I'm Trisha.
Hey, Trisha.
Cinematographer and sometimes producer and all that fun stuff. So my question is with the maintaining relationships for maybe someone that could be like socially awkward, that doesn't really know when to like reach out or how to reach out, or even like, hey, have imposter syndrome and don't really know what to post all the time to kind of put out my work. What would your suggestion be?
Hey, you want to get a cup of coffee? I mean, honestly, I think it just starts with just having a comfortability with the person. It doesn't have to be always so work-driven. I think relationship, the word relationship, goes so much more than who you work with, who you know. It's who you can trust, who you feel comfortable around, and like Ellen said, finding your tribe. Networking is scary, you know. We're all just trying to make it and find our people, but you know, I think keeping it as simple as just like saying if you want to have a coffee or go for a walk, you know, and just get to know them on a more personal level. I think that's going to break the barrier of discomfort.
I'm an awkward over communicator, you may have noticed during this very session. I have literally told people, like, gone to some of their events, supported what they're doing, and when they're like, why do you offer to help? I'll be like, oh, I would really like to be your friend. I think you're really cool. I just really want to work with you. So I'm just going to keep showing up. And yeah, I don't know. This is how I'm doing it. A lot of my really good friends, we joke now. And it's like, hey, remember that time where you were like helping me carry stuff to my car? And I asked, were you like a serial killer who was stalking me? I was like, yeah. Yeah, and I did keep showing up to your stuff because I thought it was really cool. And they were like, yeah, it was really weird, but I'm really glad that you said, like, I just really like you and I just want to be your friend. So you can actually own your awkwardness. You don't have to try and be somebody else. as long as it's authentic, you know, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that word exactly, like authenticity is really important because that's actually what most of the time vibes with people is if you are more shy or introverted, like that's okay. And I think when you try to not be that, then people maybe get weird. Like just own who you are, be authentic to yourself. That will resonate with people. And then you're also going to attract other people that are also like that. You know, like you might not want to be friends with the loudest person in the room because then you're like, oh, everyone's constantly looking at us when I'm standing next to them, you know? So just like own who you are, and that will attract similar people who want to vibe with that.
I think it's also important to remember that everyone is doing it and everyone feels weird. Like it's not just you. And also we, especially in this industry, we're all doing really scary things. We're spending a lot of money on short films. We're trying to make people see things. So something that has really helped me build community and network is responding to people's what they're making. If they made a short film and they put it on their story, send them an email. How did that go? Do you want to have a coffee? Do you want to talk about it? Show up to the screenings. You know, we are up against so much scrutiny when we put out our art. And so if you can support other people's art, it goes a long way.
And I'd like to just do a personal recommendation that Trisha is an incredible cinematographer, and she's so humble that she will do jobs that are way lower than her pay grade, and I think that's just super cool. She's a rock star in that way, that she's a DP, but you know she'll also like second day C for you if you ask. So I think you know you're awesome.
Hey, yeah, thank you all so much for doing this. I have a question specifically for Caitlin, but at all, if anyone wants to take it. My partner and I, since your experience with short films, my partner and I just completed a short film that had a premiere at Panic Fest in Kansas City, and we're still, you know, kind of doing that film freeway, like mass submitting to other festivals. But I was wondering if any of you had any insight on maybe some niche festivals or festivals that we might be overlooking just because it is such a great way to meet and network people.
Yeah, great question. I would say that niche is the right word, and there are so many festivals. So whatever your film caters to, Google it and find the festivals that do just that. And they might be really small and it might be far away, but it's worth the travel and it's worth it because the people who go there are looking for the same kind of niche. The investors who want that type of movie go to those niche festivals. And the big ones, of course, have the name and the recognition, which is great, but finding the community that's looking for what you're making will take it much further than otherwise.
Oh, the other thing I was going to add to that too, you said you got into, already played at a fest, is reach out to the organizers of that festival as well, because as a previous festival organizer is like, I know other fests that are like the fest I worked at. And so, and like, you know, as a festival, you know, our goal is to take care of our filmmakers. So I think like that would be a very receptive place to ask them, like, who else is like you guys? Who would you recommend we reach out to? And they might even be like, oh, here's a contact, not even just a, you know, a blank film freeway submission thing. So.
Hello. Luckily, some people already answered some of my questions, especially the introvert one. I did have a question for Ellen because you kind of brought it up before about the free workshops on goods and services. Do you know where they are or like names of places for them?
Yeah, so there are a lot of really cool what are called business service organizations throughout the city of Chicago. So there's like the Women's Business Development Center, there's Accion, there's Allies for Community Business, the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. So you can literally Google business services or business development Chicago, and it'll all come up. Also, every single community area in the city of Chicago has a Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is given money to give you free help. That is their job. I am engaged to somebody who runs a Chamber of Commerce, so I know this really, really well. The chambers are there to help you, and not just help you if you're a business owner, help you as a worker. So like reach out to them. You do not have to necessarily pay to be a member because they are supposed to give you that free support and that free help. They get government money for doing it. So use your tax dollars and use these services.
I'll just really quickly rep the shirt I'm wearing. Hashtag Gals and Gear. It's a nonprofit and it's free to join. They meet once a month and I love them a lot. So it's a good networking event. Do we have time for any more questions? Okay, cool.
Hi guys. Just wanted to ask about in terms of networking, just like a general topic or concern. So in my understanding, when you network, it's more like taking it back to high school, creating a friend group, something like that. I think it was mentioned before that you have to kind of find your niche. And so something that I've come across before was like maybe a fear of coming across as transactional. Because why, of course, the idea is that you want to bring people together specifically to make a film. You still also want to bring people together to under a shared interest outside of just making a film. So again, maybe speaking on not just being the guy that's carry the camera or carry the light, and still fostering community, even though you still want to have somebody that carries the camera or carries the light, stuff like that. So just speaking on being transactional when you're networking.
I want to just add, sometimes being transactional isn't necessarily bad. I don't know if your question is you feel like you do that and you don't want to, but I would say as a business owner and I have a lot of things going on, I'm pregnant, all these things. Sometimes when someone emails me after an event and they're very transactional, I'm like, yes, I want to help them even more. They just told me what they need. It's really exciting. They're not trying to take 4 hours for dinner, So I think it can be good to sometimes be transactional, be direct in what you're looking for, because I think we're all busy and there's a lot going on too. And so that can be a good thing, and don't always maybe feel bad about that. But then with that, it's the how in which you're doing it. If you are genuinely asking questions about what they're working on, instead of always saying the projects you're working on, that can be something that's showing interest, that you're not just always looking out for yourself or always looking how do I find this next job or whatever. Express genuine interest in what someone else is doing as well. But transactions aren't always bad. It's okay too.
That's exactly what I was going to say at the end there too, was that I think expressing interest in someone else's work is really helpful. And if you have the time, offer to read their script, offer to give advice, offer to talk things through. And by learning about each other's craft and what you both want to do, you'll know if you align, and you'll know if that eventual transaction makes sense. And then also what Erica said in terms of if it's more of a cold outreach and someone you're hoping to get advice from or meet with, make it clear in the subject line what you're looking for, because we get so many emails. And it's actually really helpful just to say, I have a script, I'd love your advice, let me know if you have time, type of thing. So definitely being bold enough to be direct, but then having interest in them as well will help it feel more community-based.
I think that maybe the word transactional may not be the right descriptor. Maybe it's extractive. Don't be extractive. Don't take more than you give. I am really, really into win-wins. If I want to work with you, I don't want it to be good for only one of us. It's got to work for both of us. So I'm not going to present anything to somebody else where I get all the benefit and this is really going to hurt them. But additionally, if they come to me and it's really going to make my life harder, but it's going to be great for them, I'm like, well, maybe not. The other thing is I'm a big believer in favors. I'm a big believer in doing people favors. And then if I do someone a favor, I will never ask you to repay that favor to me, because now we have created a weird dynamic where I give you one, you give me one, and it's icky a little bit. So I'm way more into, I'll do you a favor. I'm going to ask you for a favor for someone else, because also it's a lot harder for someone to say no when it's hey, remember when you needed a favor? I had your back. Well, now this other guy needs a favor, and here's why they're awesome. So can you help me help them? And then that also makes your life easier when we were talking about burnout, because sometimes I don't have the time or I don't have the thing to help the person who needs me to help them or who wants me to work with them. But I can be you know what? I got a guy who owes me a favor. Let me just text him right now, and you can have that favor he owes me. And that's a great way of being able to be there for somebody without actually having to be there.
And the last thing I'll add too is just, you mentioned making a movie specifically, but just be adaptive because this industry is so diverse. It's insane. When I went to film school, I thought I was going to make Tarantino films, but I'm making corporate commercials, you know? So be adaptive and ask questions to all kinds and types of film industry folk because you might actually find a niche in something different too. Like I've found a love for documentary film and I never thought that that was a thing in my mind when I was younger, but it was just asking questions and yeah, so be adaptive, be inquisitive, and transactions aren't always bad. Yeah.
One more thing I was just gonna add really quick is also I think like when you go to a networking event or you meet someone new, it's like very easy to be like, oh, what do you do? Or, you know, immediately jump into work and like those can be icebreakers, but also like it's okay to ask questions that aren't about work. Like, oh, what do you enjoy doing outside of work? Or have you taken any cool trips lately? Or tell me what your friends like doing, you know? So it's okay too, like, I think to lean into some of the things that maybe aren't quite as pointed to work, and that might make, you know, a conversation spark up where suddenly you're talking about D&D and, you know, something that's totally off topic from work, and that's where, like, you kind of find a genuine spark of there's an interest, and then the work will come from that.
Hi, my question is, well, coming from a place, I am like a 5 year into my career, creative producer, and I've found like it's kind of a lonely producer island because you're usually the only one on the film or show or commercial or whatever you're working on. And I was just curious if you have any like name dropping of like finding meaningful connections of people who are on similar paths as you. Where are we finding our cool female women producers recommendations in finding your tribe and finding people who are experiencing similar paths as you are?
It's a great question. It's hard to do. I know people say this a lot, but producing can often be a thankless job, and therefore it feels like you're very alone, especially when you're making big decisions on your own. And I would say one thing that's helped me build a little bit more of a community is not being afraid to talk about those big decisions, even when it's your decision as the producer and ultimately you have to advocate for the film. I will call my best friend who's a DP and just be like, this is crazy, let's talk about it. Or I'll call this person and talk about it. And it can make you they understand, sorry about that, they still understand the world in which you're in, even if they aren't responsible for those decisions. So definitely talk to people, even if they aren't doing the same thing as you, and they will often recommend someone who is. Also, there's a lot of great groups in Chicago. Like Sarah was talking about, Girls in Gear. If you go there and there's women who are doing other things, they might know other women. And I think just showing up for the women in the community will help you find the women you're looking for. Also, we can totally get a coffee. I'll talk to you after.
Hi, Erica, you had mentioned earlier, and maybe this question is for everyone, but you had mentioned earlier that you have a hard time selling yourself. So I'm wondering, how do you, I have a bad habit of saying, I just do this. Oh, I'm just doing this. How do you sell yourself so that you can get to those goals without just straight up lying?
I think my personal approach is show, don't tell. Like I do have a hard time, and I think it's a common thing. I'm trying to work on it. I also try if someone gives me a compliment in my head, I'm like coaching myself, like just say thanks. You know, don't deflect this of like, oh, but you know, is this and this, you know. So I am try to be self-reflective with it, but definitely I lean towards show, don't tell. And I think it's a journey. You know, I think also being honest about it. You know, I'm up here and like I appreciate everyone who's here and like the dialogue that we're even having with these conversations. And like it can be, you know, I think for me, I feel scared sometimes of being honest with like, oh, that feels uncomfortable to me. Like inside when Sarah asked that question, I was like, oh, think of a good answer quick. And it's like, no, I just said what actually is true. And I think sometimes just shining the light on the things that are harder for you or you're struggling with or just things that, you know, just your personality is just like not as good at doing those things or not giving yourself, in my example, like as much praise as I should get or like credit as I should get, and just talking about them even with strangers on a panel that's broadcasted to who knows where, like, can just help you work and grow through those things.
Sometimes it's really hard to say what you're good at because it feels like you're bragging or it feels like you're being boastful, and it feels a little jerky, like, I'm really good at this. One of the best I've ever met. Me awesome. It feels weird and icky and it's a lot easier to talk about what you've accomplished. It's a lot easier to talk about the things you've worked on that you're proud of. So if you're having a hard time talking about you, the person, that's normal, that's human. But do you feel comfortable talking about the things you've worked on that are really cool and the things you're proud of? Because then part of it is you're talking about what you've been a part of and how you contributed to that. But you also, speaking of networking, get to talk about the other people that you worked with. Like, oh, I worked on this great thing with so-and-so. It was really cool. Like, here's what I did, but here's the whole project. And it's also an opportunity for you to put a shine on the other people that you really like.
Ellen, you're my therapist now. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Just really quick, from another note, if you feel like you're in a stage where you haven't had the opportunities to show your best work, take a class or watch a workshop, something that you are able to bring up in conversation and say, oh, I saw this and it's cool because I can do that. You know, if you don't have the experience yet to prove that you can do what you know you can do, that's a good way to talk about it, is to bring it up in the realm of something else, and then it feels less like it's just about you.
And the last thing that I will add too is that everyone has to write dreaded cover letters, right? Well, make it less tactical and make it more of a love letter. Write a love letter to yourself. I'm serious. Like, write more than just what you've accomplished, but things that you love to do. You know, write your passions, your hopes, your dreams. And even if it's just for you, it's a damn good start to a cover letter. So, you know, be self-reflective and believe in yourself.
Hi. I was wondering if you have any tips for those of us that are just starting out in the industry and maybe don't have as much to offer yet or as much to show for our work, but are really excited about learning and getting involved and continuing to grow.
Be a Swiss Army knife. I came to the Reader, and the Reader is a place where a lot of people get their start. And their start mainly in the creative industries, because almost everybody who works there is not like journalism 24/7. It's a lot of working artists who write about other working artists or who do marketing and do all of these other jobs. And the best thing that anyone can do is to make themselves malleable. Are you willing to do multiple things? Are you willing to learn? Like, just learn as much as you can, and wherever you work, just if you see someone struggling, try to, oh, let me help you with that. The best people that any boss really, really likes are people who see a need, fill a need. That's it. And you don't have to fill the need perfectly. If you see the need and you're like, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just gonna sit over here awkwardly. No, go over and go, hey, it looks like you need some help. If you don't mind like showing me what you need, I got it from there. It's okay to need training. It's okay. They're gonna be thrilled that you wanna help. And it's okay to ask, how can I help you? Just show me and I'll do it.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that has given me the success that I've had in my career is not knowing how to do everything. There's a lot of backwards stuff in this industry that like people just do it because it's always been done that way. And I preach this a lot because I think innovation and looking at ways in which we can do things better is really, really important. So I think just starting out and not feeling like maybe you have all the answers to things, I think that's a huge blessing. Like that's something that you can use to your advantage because you're going to learn different ways of doing things because you don't go into it with this mindset, that ego of like, I'm going to go in there and do exactly. And of course there's certain things like, I mean, I own a camera rental house, so I hope someone who doesn't know how to like plug a cable into a $100,000 camera just doesn't try it. You know what I mean? So there is a balance to it too. There is certain technical things you have to learn, but your attitude going into it is the most important thing.
I was going to add, attitude is the first word I thought of too. When I first started out, I took every job under the sun, from reality TV to documentary to live broadcast productions. And I remember every freelance job I booked, I'd have butterflies in my stomach, and I'd be like, do I actually know how to use that camera? Do I actually know how to coil the cable right? I went there, and if I had to ask a question, I would. But keeping a positive attitude was key for me because everyone's learning, everyone starts out, and at the end of the day, you get there and you're like, oh, I actually do know how to use that camera. I do know how to coil the cable. Like, I could do this. So keeping a positive attitude and asking questions as you go along is huge. Don't be the person, like Erica said, to plug the wrong thing into the wrong port and ruin a production. Just say, hey, can you show me how to do this? There's a humble way of asking for help that doesn't make you look like an idiot. So it's important.
Yeah, I was also going to talk about attitude also on a broader scale of being on set, because I think even if you don't have specific skills to offer yet, you can offer a good attitude. And that goes such a long way on a set. It is so stressful. Everyone is trying to get things done at 1,000,000 miles an hour. If you can be the one who stays positive, hands out waters, asks if people are doing okay, that is an asset. So I think you are an asset from the beginning. It's just about how you show up.
So that is time. Thank you all so much. Please drink some water. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah.